But right now, we're going to concentrate on another story in tomorrow's back pages, and that concerns Lee Mason, the video assistant referee, or should I say, former video assistant referee, because after his mistake against, in the game between Arsenal and Brentford, which could have cost Arsenal 2 points, because in the end, of course, Brentford equalised from the penalty spot. Martin Ziegler reporting in The Times saying that Arsenal error has forced Lee Mason out as a VAR. And it's quite an interesting story, this, isn't it, Craig? Because if I'm right in thinking, Lee Mason was vilified, was it by Keith Hackett, former head of the referees, in the press just a couple of days ago. So he's not had a good few days. He's retired as a referee a few years ago, but this is not a great end for him.
It's not, no. And listen, I ghostwrote Mark Clattenburg's autobiography a couple of years ago, so I've got a large degree of sympathy with referees. And actually, Lee was someone who Mark spoke about in that book. And what I will say is, Lee Mason has always come across as a thoroughly decent individual. I think he's very popular in the refereeing circuit. I think he's a good fun, a good guy to be around. But what you will say is that, these controversies have followed him around for a long time now, be that on the field as a referee, or since he's moved into the VAR studio, and certainly in refereeing circles as well. That was no secret that these calamities did seem to dog Lee, and I think this is just one too far. And it was such a bad error, wasn't it? To bring it back to actually VAR itself, I think we don't vilify VAR here. We shouldn't vilify anyone, actually. We've got to remember Lee Mason is a human being, but ultimately this was human error. I do think the Premier League now would be a scary place without VAR. I know it got a hell of a kicking in the wake of those awful errors last weekend. There was 2 of them, wasn't there? But I do think we should stick with it. I'm a big advocate of it. I think it does far more good than it does bad. It's just a case of putting the right people in place, to make those decisions and to control the technology. And as much as I say, we shouldn't hound Lee, and I think some of the coverage has been a little bit unfair and a little bit inhumane, ultimately it was starting to look like he probably wasn't up to that job. And I do hope that, part of that decision process, I do hope that he was part of that himself as well, and that this is a mutual parting of the ways, just, an acceptance that it wasn't working, and quite clearly it wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, he probably paid the price, didn't he, for a very poor weekend from VARs in general last weekend.